Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us in the All In Leadership podcast. We're just doing our best to try to build a leadership network, a leadership community where we can talk about leadership, communicate about leadership, learn some things about leadership. And not only just from me and from the podcast, but from friends that are joining us to give us insight about their experiences with leadership. And so, thanks for joining us today, and make sure you do something. Listen, it would really be helpful if you'll subscribe to the podcast, if you'll like it, if you'll make comments, if you'll share it with other people. And this will just, engage the algorithm and help us to be able to grow the podcast. And so, we're just getting started. And so we'd love to have your help to expand and grow, because we know that leadership is an effective medium for people to become better and improve not only themselves, but their organizations and the people around them. So today we're going to be talking to my friend Blake Callaham, and he is the president of Pioneer, and he has got a great story and a lot of great insight about leadership. So thanks for joining. Well, good morning, Blake. How you doing?
Morning. Life is good. Life is good.
Yeah, man, the weather's getting better. It's about time for some golf.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Well, hey, listen, tell us a little bit before we get started and asking you some specific questions about leadership. Tell us a little bit about just your story, how you got started, how you got into the role that you're in now. What's your journey been like?
Well, my journey's been long. I'll start with that. Professionally, personally, I'd like to say I have a beautiful family, but we don't have enough time for that, and that's probably for another podcast. So I'll just work on my professional experience. And, I went to work for Pioneer Telephone Cooperative. We are a cooperative, which is really cool because we're mission-based versus profit-based, which is, feeds my heart, my soul. So that's a good thing, but it wasn't necessarily planned that way. So, when I began with Pioneer in the late 90s, I started as a construction lineman. Mm-hmm. So basically climbing poles, digging ditches, burying cable. At that time it was copper cable, not necessarily fiber. Today it's kind of fiber. But that's where I started with Pioneer, and I did that for a few years in Frederick, by the way, my hometown, Frederick, Oklahoma. Go Bombers if you're out there. And anyway, I started as the construction lineman, and I did that for about 3 years before I transferred to the Blanchard, Newcastle area. Mm-hmm. And I transferred to that area to be a technician. Basically, I installed telephone. Kind of funny, I installed internet, but it was a different version of internet. It was dial-up internet.
You remember those days. I remember that sound. I'll never forget that sound.
Right. And we actually got very started into the infancy of internet back then, or broadband, which was DSL. So that was kind of new technology in the early 2000s that I installed in the Blanchard, Newcastle area. But I did that about 4 years. So I was a technician for about 4 years, and I transferred down to more south central, still considered southwest, but the Comanche area, and I managed that exchange. That was Comanche, Loco, Hastings, Temple, Addington, those towns, and we lived around the Duncan area. So that was a pretty good season of my life. My son started school, my daughter started school there as well. But we did that for about 6 years. Mm-hmm. And then, about every 4, 5, 6 years, I've got to do something different. So I transferred back to the Blanchard, Newcastle area. Mm-hmm. And then I was managing the Newcastle Exchange. It was local manager, local service administrator, whatever title you want to put on it. But that was a good experience because we got to come back home. My daughter had some friends still there in that school system in Blanchard, and so it was a good move for us. At that time, and I guess it still is a fact, Newcastle is the largest exchange within Pioneer's footprint.
Oh, wow.
And so it was, the customer base was very diverse. It was not the traditional cooperative customer base. So I got to experience a lot of good life experiences that really, I think, helped pave, who I am today. But I did that for another, what's the trend there, 6, 7 years. and at that time, after and I will tell you, after 3 failed attempts of trying to become a department manager within Pioneer,
Yeah.
I finally got the opportunity to manage our facilities engineering team of Kingfisher. And at that time, my son, well, I guess really my daughter and son were still in high school. So I moved them 4 times basically,
Wow.
and I decided not to move them again. So I commuted. I drove from Blanchard to Kingfisher, which I would recommend. If I was about 150 miles every day.
Wow.
So I had a Chevy Cruze, which got great gas mileage. I don't think I could do that today, but so I had that position for about 2 years. And then I got an opportunity to be division manager of our marketing and customer service groups, which was a discipline that I didn't have a whole lot of experience in.
Yeah.
I'd been involved in the customer experience since day one, but the marketing was a whole new level. And thankfully, I had some very good leaders in that work group that helped me grow and train me so I could really understand, what product placement really means.
Exactly.
And then I had that opportunity that was about 2016 until 2022, so about 6 years again. And I got the opportunity to serve Pioneer as general manager, and I've been doing that ever since. And it's been a wonderful journey and so fulfilling, and so thankful for the opportunity.
That's awesome. What a story. What a journey. So I got a couple of questions about that, just in specific. So number one, first of all, explain is there a way to explain very quickly what a cooperative is? Because some people may not even understand that concept. So tell us a little bit about what's the difference between a cooperative and then a profit bottom line type corporation.
There's a whole series. Actually, we're doing a whole series on this. So if you want to, we're talking about podcasts and social media. If you go to gopioneer.com, you can learn all the details about what a cooperative is. But why a cooperative was created? We were created in 1953, but it's providing a service that's in an area that's would not deem to be profitable. And it's member owned. We are owned by our members. We have about 35,000 members throughout Western Oklahoma. And it's about serving them from an equality basis, from a price standpoint, providing the same kind of service that they would get in the urban areas at the same price. You can't do that with a profit-driven company. It's got to be a cooperative.
Right.
And so we're here to serve our members, provide the most, let me just share our vision to be the trusted technology partner enabling their world. So it's enhancing the lives, that's our mission, enhancing the lives of our members through continual innovation and technology. That's why we were created in 1953. It was a telephone service back then, but now we're basically the same thing. We're still a communications company, but it's fiber, it's broadband, and whatever else comes next.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. I mean, you think about the industry, the telecommunications industry, it's just changed so much and so fast, and the technology is changing, it seems like, unbelievably fast all
Every
the
minute.
time. Yeah. Yeah. And so, so you said a couple of things that drew my interest. First of all, that's interesting, the whole leadership aspect of leading the organization, because you have, I don't know how many employees, 400 or 500, is that what it is?
About 400 today.
Yeah, about 400 employees. But from a leadership standpoint, you're leading 35,000 people, because that's the members of the cooperative. And so you, as the general manager, have to provide levels of leadership for all those different levels of people and engagement. That's very interesting. So a couple of questions I have for you in that process. Why 6 years? What do you think it is every 5 to 6 years that causes you to want to shift or change? Or is it just a need for improvement, a need for advancement? What is it?
That's a good question. I've asked myself that about every 5-6 years. You know? But no, I think it's a need of continual improvement. You know, that's the whole process of leadership. That's the whole process of life. It's continual improvement and learning something new, and really putting yourself in uncomfortable situations so you can grow personally. And
Right.
so I think that's really the goal of mine. Maybe internally, I don't know that I could eloquently explain exactly why I always want something more.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
But that's probably the reason
Well,
behind
that
it.
leads me to my next question, because it really is, you know, if you're constantly wanting to improve and you have this mindset of continual improvement, and the way you do it is exactly what you just explained, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations that stretch you and force you to grow. If you don't grow, you're not going to make it. Well, one of the things you said just a few minutes ago is in that attempt to become a director or what was it, a manager?
Division manager.
Division manager, right? You failed 3 times trying to achieve that. Tell me a little bit about those failures and what you learned from them and how they helped you move forward.
You know, it's interesting because each one of those failures was different.
Right.
They, you know, one of them was out of desperation. I was not qualified for the job at all.
Yeah.
So I can kind of discount that one. The first one, I would say, you know, it was just not my time.
Yeah.
You know, I was not prepared, and I think failure is what leads you to, well, it's a learning experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's helped me along the way, even you know, providing my testimony to other employees throughout Pioneer, and even throughout even my family life.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't my time. I guess I can just say that. And
Right.
I think everything, you know, God has a purpose for you, and putting you. If I would not have went the path that I went, I don't believe I would be where I am today.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where I come from.
You know, I love what Henry Ford says about failure. He said, failure is not the end, it's just an opportunity to try it again more intelligently. And I think that a lot of times we see failure as the end. It's fatal, it's final. But failure really is just an education. And I think if we don't let failure diminish us or cause us to become discouraged and quit or give up, if we'll stop and go, all right, so that didn't work or that didn't go well, I think the first thing you have to do is own it. Like, yep, that didn't work, you know, and then look at it and evaluate it and what went wrong, what could we have done differently, how could we do this different in the future. It really opens up opportunities for whether it's a personal failure or whether it's an organizational failure. It opens up opportunities not only just to get it right, but to do it much better. And it could even become innovative. Matter of fact, I would think, I don't know what I need to get the details on this, but you've heard that quote about Benjamin Franklin. Is it Benjamin Franklin? Or, yeah, I think Benjamin Franklin. Is that right? I may have the wrong person. But he was the inventor, right?
Right.
Is that Benjamin
Yeah, I
Franklin?
believe so.
Yeah, okay. So sometimes these old names, I'm over 50, man. Give me a break.
You pass.
So he, it took him 10,000. People said he failed 10,000 times trying to produce electricity, and he said, no, I just learned 10,000 ways it wouldn't work. But if you go back and study on that process he went through to get there, there's tons of inventions in that 10,000 tries where things were invented. It was productive. Things did happen, but it wasn't the thing he was trying to do. So I think it's amazing how if you can have that kind of intellectual and emotional persistence, you look at failure as an opportunity to launch yourself into the future, not as a stopping point. So how did you deal with that? How did you achieve that?
Well, that may have been Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison, yes. I knew Benjamin. I knew I
wasn't
had it
sure where he was
wrong.
going,
I
yeah.
knew I had it wrong.
Yeah.
Benjamin Franklin's the politician. Yeah. So.
But I could speak to that. I mean, the
Yeah.
question's relative. I mean, really, when I experienced those failures, it drove me to another level.
Yeah.
And basically, it drove me to continue to study and learn, and actually education.
Right.
That's really what led me through education. Through even my long, probably 18-year journey of getting through night school,
Yeah.
non-traditional, getting my bachelor's and master's. Bachelor's at University of Oklahoma, by the way.
Yeah.
And master's
Boomer Center, baby.
and master's at the University of Central Oklahoma. But it's not. But what I learned today.
Go
It's
Broncos.
Not, right. It's not about It's not about education.
Right.
It's about application. And I think that's if I wouldn't have had those failures,
Yeah.
I don't think I would have had the application part.
Right.
Because you learn. How to communicate better, how to study better, how to understand what you're learning,
Right.
and understand, putting in the situations you're learning a theory, a situational leadership theory, and you experience at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Right.
that's the power of it. So
Yeah, I had the same experience. I went back to get my bachelor's and master's in my 40s, late 40s, and man, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to do something like that. But I agree with you 100%. It's not just about the education, which I do not demean, because education is an important thing. It's not the only important thing, but it is important. But the application of education is what's important about it. And I think a lot of times when you're younger and you haven't experienced a lot, I think you miss a lot of the education that you're actually getting. Mm-hmm. But you immediately, when you're going through those courses at an older age, it's applicable because you're living it, or you have lived it already. And you can see where you made mistakes. You see where you could have done it better. You could see greater thoughts or more expanded ideas on it. And I think it's an important thing, and I think it's a brave thing to do too. I think two things you've said already that are very brave and very important are put yourself in uncomfortable situations so that you stretch and learn, and then don't be afraid to do something just because you're older or more experienced. Don't be afraid to put yourself back into a learning situation or a learning environment, because I think that's one of the things that people struggle with. I think John Maxwell said one time, I heard him when he was talking, he said when you stop learning, you start dying. And I think it's true. I think our growth just completely stalls when we decide, I've learned it all. I mean, I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more I think, man, I know less than I've ever known. That's how I feel.
When I'm around my kids and grandkids, absolutely.
Yeah. I thought I had a handle on this,
right,
man.
Right. Thought I knew this world.
Yeah, right. Boy, and the world changes so fast. Let's talk about that for a minute. As a leader and leading people, especially on an employee scale, but then also on a membership scale of the co-op, with the world changing the way it does and the way things move and change and transition so often and so much and so quickly, how do you handle that? What is your perspective as a leader, and what are your thoughts as a leader when it comes to change and leading change?
Well, it's about flexibility, right? And it's about being open to transformation. I mean, I can look back even in my 28-year career with Pioneer. I mean, it's changed so much because you go back from a traditional telephone company, and we were even a paging company. Pagers.
I had one of those. Yeah.
Paging company, and then we also had a cellular company as well. But right. You can look, and today we're primarily fiber and transport, which is basically connecting the world basically through Oklahoma. We're a huge transport company that connects the world to Oklahoma, actually.
Yeah.
But it's different. Every one of those services and products that we provide are different.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you make those changes, those evolutions, it's hard.
Yeah.
But it's trust. Understanding that and I look at it from my perspective as we were transitioning through some of those services throughout the years. as an employee, you may not fully understand everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But you have to trust those that are making those decisions, that they're
Right.
doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I always had that, and I pray that I have that today with some of the changes we've made over the last 4 years. It's been pretty dramatic, the
Yeah.
changes that we've made. But I believe there was intention and there was purpose,
Right.
and I know that our company, it's kind of funny. Our annual meeting is coming up here in May, and I was just reviewing before I came here our annual report. And then I went back to compare the last 4 years of annual reports just to see the trend. And, it's, I'm a little bit ashamed of it, but, 4 years ago, financially, we were going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
5 years ago, probably at least when it started, we were going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And I looked this morning, in the last 3 years, it was just that trend line was back up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you, Jesus. I mean, that's when you go through hard changes, there's a reason for it, and to see that trending back the way it should trend, is kind of a blessing.
That's a great. It really is a great thought, because I think when you're on the ground level of whatever organization and you're doing that frontline type work and changes are made, you don't always understand this is a course correction, or this change is necessary, even though it may be a little painful, it may hurt a little bit, it may require me to think a little broader. You said a word that's, oh man, such a leadership word, flexibility. The organizations that are the most effective in my mind they're very nimble. They can turn on a dime. They don't allow a aversion to change to stop them from change. And it's not really people don't like change. I don't know why. I'm not that way. I like change.
I love it.
Yeah, which might be the 6-year thing for you.
That's right, it could be.
Yeah. But I like change, especially positive change, or especially change that is bringing a solution. I love that. But the truth is, a lot of people struggle with change, and I think we all love change if it has to do with someone else. We just don't like it when it has to do with us. But I really think that change is hard because it makes you uncomfortable at first. So how do you maintain flexibility? What's the practical way that you help lead people to be flexible enough so that when change happens, they can embrace it?
I think it's a plan. It's a plan. I mean, there's got to be a reason you changed, and I
Right.
think that's important for people to understand that reason, why you're changing.
Right.
And to cast that vision that they know that you have a plan of where you're going to go.
Right, exactly.
But I think it's a little bit deeper than that too, because 4 years ago when kind of got the opportunity to serve in this position, it was there was a need. There was definitely a need.
Yeah.
But you also have to send the message that you're different.
Yeah.
Things are going to be different.
Right.
And that's when change starts happening.
Right.
But then you've got to do more than that. It's not just you're different. You got to have a plan.
Yeah.
And you got to have that plan. I think, this past couple of years we've been developing our strategic plan, which is called Project Lightspeed. And it's really giving people, it's getting down to the level to where you can fully understand your purpose.
Yeah.
And what your role is within the final product.
Yeah.
And it's not just about providing broadband. It's about connecting.
Yeah.
It's about connecting. It's about the education. The remote education, remote learning. It's about the telehealth. It's about impacting people's lives. It's about having that grandma that her grandson was being born overseas because they were in the Army and they were deployed, being able to see that kid through your broadband connection.
Wow.
It's about that, and that's and providing and everybody understanding their purpose, and that's what our strategic plan is doing. Also provides metrics to bring forth some understanding of what's expected of them, and so people really know what to do and how.
So all of that communicates clarity.
Exactly.
But so how does I love what you're doing there because you're attaching all the way down to the role level of in the organization, every level of roles. You're attaching it to the overarching vision of the organization. And what does it really mean? I was working with a real estate company one time, coaching their agents and their leaders, and they were just having a real problem with people struggling with, knowing what the purpose really was, and they were having some bad behavior show up because it was just about the money. It was just about making money and selling and getting it done and going for it. And what happens in a situation like that, I mean, money's a real thing and you do want to profit and you do want to make money. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, if that's the only motivation you have, it can become destructive. And so they were having some of that. People were being destructive, climbing over the top of each other, uh, building a bad reputation in the community of real estate, and you in every industry and every dynamic, you need to have partners out there beyond you. And when you create a scenario like that, you don't have anybody who wants to work with you or anything like that. So they were having some struggles. So we went back and we just started asking some questions and doing a strategic plan with them and working with them to figure out what does it really mean. And they narrowed it down to not we sell real estate, but we provide homes. And it was the feeling of that we talked a lot about what does it feel like to have a home, not a house, but a home. And so we're providing homes for families to live their lives. And well, that sounds like, well, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? And from a leadership perspective, it's a huge deal because all of us want to know that what we're doing is not just something we're doing, but it has meaning, it has weight, it's doing something effective, it's affecting society in a positive way. So, so how do you think this is going? I mean, are with the strategic plan and with giving people clarity and communication, what do you see as the benefits? What do you see as the wins so far? I know this is a new in the last 2 years. So what are the wins so far? And what do you think? What do you think are the struggles or the issues that you might have in? I think one of the issues that goes along with this is the layers of organization that this has to trickle down into. So how do you do that? How do you think that's going? And what do you think are the challenges?
Strategic pause here.
Okay.
No, I think it's really, we engaged an outside company to come in and help us. We didn't want to recreate the wheel.
Right.
And the system we use is called Balanced Scorecard.
Okay.
And really, about a year and a half ago is really when we got to a point where we were ready to recreate ourselves.
Yeah.
And we brought this up. We did many RFPs, and the vendor that we brought in was Balanced Scorecard. We created what we called a Tier 1, a corporate strategic map, strategy map. Yeah. And it was 15 objectives, 4 perspectives. And that was the overarching goal of the company. Everything that we did needed to align with that.
Right.
And we got that ready, and we started implementing it or sharing the message across the company.
Yeah.
And it was hard to connect.
Yeah.
Because it was so broad. I mean, we have 9 divisions, 27 departments, and a little over 400 employees, and it just didn't connect with everybody.
Right.
I mean, the senior leadership team understood it because we created it, and even department managers, they helped us create it. But we're like, okay, we've got to go deeper.
Yeah.
So we created, this is what's fairly new. It's our Tier 2, which is a level below the divisional level, created their own maps.
Yeah.
Their own strategy maps. And then that's how it kind of relates to the corporate map. So it gets down a little bit more granular.
Yeah.
And we're encouraging even down to even departmental level, not necessarily having a formal process, but they can create their own mission statements, their own, what do they call it, meeting statements.
Yeah.
And so that's really, I think, is where the traction begins, because that's where it ties into what I do every day. Even though it may not drive up through my tier 2 map to the corporate map, it matters to my division, which then matters to the corporate.
Right.
So if they may, I mean, think of accounting for example. Doing the financial accounting doesn't necessarily create broadband, but what it does do is it allows us to financially invest in those communities,
Right.
and put forth the effort to provide that service. So it's how it all aligns.
Right.
That's where the traction will get. But also that we've encouraged after that, it's the next step. It's employee action plans. It's employee, and so we have 90-day action plans now that are more geared towards departments that feed up to the map. But now we're getting into the more individual level.
Yeah.
And through that process, you create KPIs, key performance indicators, and measurements. And then that's really what's ultimately going to tie to employee evaluations.
Yeah.
So it's, from the top all the way through the organization to employee evaluations, and how that aligns with the KPIs that are your measurements for your objectives within your map, and your initiatives.
Right.
There's a lot to unpack there, but that's where we're at, and so I believe we are getting traction. But when we get down to that individual employee level, that's going to be a game changer for the organization.
Right. That's amazing to think about. But at the same time, when you think about it, it's like, wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
But it is a lot when you have a big organization and you have even a bigger swath of membership. It's very important to get everybody on the same page, and really, essentially, that's what you're saying. We're getting everybody on the same page, and to help them understand what the true objectives are, and clarity and communication and so on. So what you're really saying is you're creating a culture.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're creating a culture. And so here's one thing that we have to always think about in terms of leadership. Creating a culture is not all, a lot of times this is why we have KPIs, this is why we have measurements, this is why we have ability to see results on paper, is because we want to see what's happening. But we sometimes get caught up as leaders trying to impact and affect the results, and there are certain things about results that you have no power over. And you can't go out and force somebody to buy something. You can't go out and force somebody to use your service. So there are certain things that you just don't have control over. But we can't have a sure ability to control outcomes. But what we can control is environments. Mm-hmm. And so I may not be able to control how people are going to respond to what it is I'm producing, but I can definitely control the environment in which it's being produced, which makes it more effective, which makes people respond better, and which raises the level of market share, if you will, from my perspective, because you're producing a better product because it's coming out of a better place. Mm-hmm. That's what it seems to be happening. So how big does communication play in the developing of that environment and that culture?
Well, I mean, it's essential, right? I mean, it's one of the big jokes that we've had, as a communications company in the past is we're a communications company, but we don't communicate very well. And we've kind of taken that to heart. These last few years. We've started doing employee surveys. And historically, that may have been scary.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit scary, to be honest with you, the first time we did it. But that's how you get feedback, and that's how you improve. And one of those things was about communication. And so, the hard thing about communication is everybody listens and interacts differently. Some people listen and interact, digitally, through podcasts. Hopefully, all of you do that with podcasts. Some people can interact through email. Some people text. Some people, I've got to call them. I've got to call you. And then some people, I've got to be in person.
Yeah.
and so it's hard to really adapt. So what we've done, we've created a culture and environment that encourages all those things. And so one thing for the face-to-face, it's hard to get out throughout, Western Oklahoma and do face-to-face, but it is on my action plans to get out more often. But what we've done is, why not use technology?
Yeah.
So we use Microsoft Teams, and every month we have what we call the Pioneer Pulse
Yeah.
meeting.
Very
And
good.
that's basically just, sometimes it's the executive leadership team that kind of leads it, and then sometimes we have guest speakers that come on there and give updates. And it's, timing's also different too, because we have business offices and they open at 8:30. So it's like we've got to stop at 8:30. Well, guess what? The last I guess 4 months we've not stopped at 8:30. It's been more like 8:45. So so it's that kind of communication. It is through emails. It is through text message. It is through voice calls, in-person visits, but it's also through, we've had the most success. I mean, we're getting almost 300 folks joining every month on our Pioneer Pulse meeting. And sometimes some of those offices, I would say it's more than that, because some offices, they may have 4 or 5 people and they only join them on one.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so I think that's been the biggest success. And I will say this last year's employee survey, that communication was no longer in the red.
Wow.
Very
good.
There's still ways of improving it, where there's still room for improvement, but it's not one of our, 5 things that we identified that we really need to work on for next year.
Yeah.
And so that was a good sign.
So tell me how important does that feedback loop, how important is that? Because I think a lot of guys, you said the word, you're afraid. I'm afraid to find out. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do the survey, but man, I don't know what's coming back at me. But what do you find the benefits of creating that feedback loop? Which, when I say feedback loop, it's an ongoing process of feedback, because there's really no benefit in spotty feedback. It doesn't give you the whole picture. It doesn't give you the picture in a continual way. So things change over time. So how have you seen that? Has that impacted your leadership? Has it impacted your organization overall? And what are the greatest benefits? And then maybe some challenges with it.
If you, in the world that we live in, which is the technology world, the communication world is technology these days. Innovation is the only answer. That's the only thing that keeps you relevant.
Right.
And to be innovative, you've got to create an environment or a culture that allows people to provide feedback, to provide ideas, to provide thoughts, to continually improve the organization. This is not just a personal continually improvement. This is an organizational culture that we're creating. But it's imperative in a couple of ways that we've done that. And I would venture off to say about 4 years ago, we started this program called Operation Idea. And it was really geared towards some of the lean principles of creating a more effective, more efficient company. Because if you look back, we were in kind of a financial situation back then, so it was very necessary to be lean and to be efficient. But part of that was to, even though I may have done some of the things, operationally and even at the ground level, I still don't have answers of how to improve it today. It's changed. So it was creating a format that those employees could help share ideas and thoughts, and then we would implement them, and then we would celebrate it. And so that was more geared towards process, and that's ongoing. It's probably not as, we don't get the 20 ideas submitted every month anymore, but that's still ongoing. And then last year, as a part of the strategic plan, it was innovation. We had our goals set for launching 4 new products and services per year. And we've fully met that, but it's also about not launching the products. It's about finding the products that people buy too. So that's another thing that a struggle. We've launched a lot of products that hasn't been as successful. So that's probably one of the struggles, the challenges that we've experienced. But so we kind of hit not necessarily a brick wall, but we were getting that positive feedback throughout the company that they wanted to be part of the innovation. They wanted,
Right.
and this also came through employee survey, and then a subcommittee through the Project Lightspeed. The idea was to create a think tank.
Yeah.
And when we thought about this, we're like, yeah, that's a great idea. It's just throwing ideas out there of things that the innovation team that's 15 folks that aren't necessarily we're really trying to figure out how to implement the products, not to the point of just green light thinking.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when we sent a survey out, which that's another way we communicate to try to get feedback. We sent the survey out, and we was expecting we may get 10 people or so. We got 60.
Wow.
We got 60 folks out there that wanted to be a part of this innovative team.
Wow.
And so what we did, we had two of the main leaders that brought forth this idea. We had them set them aside for team captains. And we split it up into basically 4 teams. And we had to separate them. We had to do 2 teams at once, and we're actually they're at their completion, and then we're starting 2 more teams for the next phase. But they've launched some amazing ideas, some thoughts, some things that we never really explored, and even I kind of hesitate to even say some of them because some of them may not come to fruition. But these thoughts and ideas that we've never thought about, and the people that are actually doing them, it's like, can we really do that? And they're like, yeah, we can do that. And I'm like, okay, let's build a business case and let's see what we can find out. So really,
that's awesome.
That's been some of the biggest successes from green light thinking, from feedback loops, is the operation idea and our think tanks.
Yeah. So I want you to notice several things that were said there from a leadership perspective. You can't have innovation without collaboration. So if you don't create feedback loops and allow people to put their fingerprints on what you're doing, then you're missing out on a lot of opportunity to innovate, to create new ideas, to keep yourself relevant as a business or a company. And so the other thing is, you don't want to just have ideas for ideas' sake. When you say the term think tank, it shakes me a little bit because, we see think tanks all the time, and they're just, they're up in the sky, they're up in the air, they just talk about things. And then we build policy on a lot of these think tanks and ideas, and that they have had no practical connection whatsoever, and they don't work well. So I love the idea of not just collaboration, innovation, but application, and not just doing things because someone had a good idea, but really working that thing, massaging it, figuring it out. And that also takes collaboration. So that's incredible. And communication becomes very important. My daughter, she's a communications major, and she used to come home. She now works at Yukon Public Schools as one of their communication specialists. But she would just be so frustrated because the communications department was horrible at communicating. She said, I don't understand it. We never know what's going on. We never know what's happening, and they never talk to us, and they communicate in confusing ways. And I'm like, how can the communications department not communicate? But the truth is, there's so many levels to communication. There's levels to, there's interpersonal communication, there's organizational communication, there's individual interpersonal communication, there's person-to-person communication, there's all technological ways to communicate. But none of that is effective if what you're communicating doesn't communicate. And so we have to learn to push our communication to a place of, number one, clarity, but then also connection. So how do you make sure things are clear as you communicate them, and how do you make sure that there's engagement, that there's connection happening?
I mean, it's about creating that environment that encourages collaboration, encourages feedback, but it's consistency. It's about consistency, and I'll give you an example. Last year, when we officially launched Project Lightspeed, we brought up every employee for a 3-day session. So we could split out about 140 employees per day. So they didn't come 3 days, but over a 3-day session, and we didn't want to interrupt our operations out in the field. So to keep all of our offices open, we split up into 3 days. We brought them to Kingfisher and gave them the plan,
Yeah.
the strategy map, the corporate strategy map, as well as the tier 2 was kind of the high level of the tier 2. We went into lots of detail. And then we fed them a really good lunch, by the way. But that's another.
That's always important to
That was
communication.
important, right? That was important.
Digestion is important to communication.
Absolutely. So we did that, and I think that was around the August time frame. Well, October we had our employee meeting, and guess what? We delivered at least an hour of that same message.
Yeah.
And it was for them. It was for all the employees to hear it again.
Yeah.
And there were some employees like, well, you said that 2 months ago. Yeah, we did, and we're saying it again because this is important.
Yeah,
this
and
is
we're going to say it again.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. This is not going away. This is not a plan that was created, put on a shelf, and then just to say we did it. This is really for some meaningful impact to the organization. So it is repetition. It is consistency.
Yeah.
That really encourages engagement and again. Well, this is something new that we've done the past few years is, at our employee meeting, we do basically just an open mic session to where the executive team's on the stage and the employees can ask them anything they want.
Wow.
And it's, again, that was another scary thing, but it was to create the culture of, we're not holding anything back and we don't want you to hold anything back.
Right.
Now, you may ask us a question that's probably confidential. We may be under NDA. We may not be able to answer it, but I'm going to tell you I can't answer it.
Yeah.
You can ask the question.
Right.
And we got some uncomfortable questions.
Oh, wow.
And we've got, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
part
okay.
of it.
That's part of it. And so I think that's part of it.
How much this has come up in this conversation a lot, and it's not something that's popular in our culture today because a lot of our culture is based on comfort.
Right.
Everything we're trying to do is achieve comfort.
Right.
But learning doesn't happen in comfort, and growth definitely doesn't happen in comfort. So how much of your growth and development do you think comes as a result, as an organization, as a result of being willing to set in uncomfortable settings?
That's who we are. I mean, that's who we are. I mean, to evolve, you have to experience a little bit of uncomfortable. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to experience a little bit of despair, a little bit of failure, a little bit of trial and error. But I think that's, I mean, if you look at it, that's in our name. We're a pioneer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We take opportunities that maybe no one else would do, and we provide services to rural areas that nobody else would. And so it's about growth. It's about doing things that no one else would want to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. So people who work for Pioneer should have a bit of a pioneer spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pioneer innovative spirit. That's actually one of our new core values, innovative spirit.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So how do you balance making decisions quickly enough to keep momentum without making careless decisions? I'm sure there are times where, a lot of what we've talked about today is long processes and things of that nature, but I'm sure there are times where you have to make decisions and they may be quickly. Well, how do you do that without being careless?
This is a good question. This is a very good topic, and it's about balance. If I look at it's about, and I'm not saying this because this is everything an organization does and impacts organization, but I am saying this is important. The executive team that we have diverse experiences.
Yeah.
For example, I'm very change oriented. I love change.
Yeah.
But a couple other vice presidents may not be that change oriented.
Right.
And so it's about having that trust in that team and sharing thoughts and ideas, and before major decisions are made, run that through the filter, run that through the team.
Yeah.
And that's when they're like, Blake, pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
hold on.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
let's think of this,
And you
and
need
this.
that.
And so it's about, having a team that it doesn't just say, okay, let's do it. They say why, and they ask hard questions.
Yeah.
And then even further than that, we have an awesome steering committee, which is the executive team, along with the division managers. We call it our senior leadership team. A lot of decisions that we can take to that group,
Yeah.
which is probably 99% of them. We filter that through that group to see how will that impact your work groups and your departments within your divisions.
Yeah.
And so it's about balance and getting, well, you said the word earlier, collaboration.
Yeah.
Before major decisions are made.
Right. That's good. So to create and engender continued momentum when you're making decisions, even if they have to be made rapidly, you still collaborate. Because in your mind, anything less than that would be careless.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what's a decision you made that accelerated momentum?
Accelerated momentum. I would say this strategy. The corporate, when we first brought in, balanced scorecard to develop our strategic map, it wasn't to go into where we are today. It was a corporate map.
Yeah.
To really redefine, because we made a lot of changes, and it was to redefine direction, mission, vision, core values. The traditional things that define what a company does, organization does. But it was like, no, we need to go deeper.
Yeah.
And so it was like, nope, we got to define a tier 2 map.
Yeah.
And go down into developing what purpose is for those employees. So I would say that's probably the most recent example of, no, let's do this, let's go for it, let's start. We were not even done with our corporate strategy map, all of the details before we started tier 2, because we saw the momentum and we wanted to go deeper. So that decision probably happened really quickly.
That's good. So I want to talk to you about one more thing on leadership level. Then I've got a couple of personal questions for you, and we'll be done. But and thank you for your time, by the way, today. I appreciate you taking time for this. And so momentum is very important in any organization. No matter what you're doing, it just makes it easier. Momentum makes movement easier. It makes growth easier. It's like back in the day when you had I don't know if I know you'll remember this, and I know our producer over here will remember it. Scott will remember it, but I remember my dad having a car that had no power steering, and if you sat in that car and it was just still and you tried to turn the wheel, it was horrendous to try to turn that wheel. But all you had to do is go it wouldn't even be a mile an hour. Just move a little bit and that wheel would be much easier to turn. And that's what momentum does for a company, organization, or even an individual. So, but there are times that momentum doesn't look like momentum, or creating momentum doesn't look like momentum. And we were talking one time about when you first started, you had to slow everything down. I gave an illustration about that, when we were talking about how people always and only see progress as forward movement. But sometimes taking a step back is as important to your progress as anything else. So tell me a little bit about that, how that happened, why it happened, and what you think you gained from it.
Well, I've got a couple of stories on that,
Okay.
David, and I'll start with the one. If you want me to expand on the other, I can do that as well. But I think just my human nature, I want to go. I want to have change. I want to excel. And so I think this was almost this was a test for me from God. When I took over so let me rephrase that. When I was given the opportunity to become general manager in January of 2022, we were a little bit in a financial trend that was not positive, at least in some parts of our business.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, Jesus, why'd you put me in this situation, right?
Yeah.
I can't just start making an impact that's a positive impact.
Right.
And we had to strategically stall a bit. and change direction of
Right.
the company, at least parts of the company. And it wasn't popular, and it's still not popular, but it was the right decision. And you can come to our annual meeting this year on May 5th, 2026, and come join us if you're a member, and see why. I mean,
Yeah.
and now we're seeing, now we've gotten over that hill, that mountain, and now we're just gliding. We're gliding. Yeah, but that was hard to do. I think it
Yeah.
was probably a test for myself, my internal behavior and personality that I didn't like.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Sometimes hard decisions have to be made,
Right.
whether they're popular or not. But
Yeah.
I think there's got to be. It's just good to be on the backside of that. I'll just
Yeah.
say that. It was a hard
Yeah.
season. Hard season.
You know, that's one of the reasons sacrifice is hard, because you can't see what's on the other side of it. You believe you know what's going to happen as a result. How often do you think that companies or organizations don't succeed because they're unwilling to take a step back and purposefully stall?
There's Well, I wouldn't recommend the purposely stall, because it's never a popular decision. But if you look at there's so many examples out in this the technology world. If you don't stall and transition, then you'll be left behind.
Yeah.
So I think it's never comfortable. I know we've said that word a few times today. But it's purpose. It's
Yeah.
intentional, and it's effective. I mean, if you think of some of the transformative technologies that are out there today. I mean, if you look at the Apple iPhone that came out in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
That was Apple was an old school just computer company that kind of hit the wall when Windows came out.
Yeah.
Or they recreated themselves and went towards phones. And
Yeah.
I've got one in my pocket now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's transformed the mobile industry.
Yeah.
And if you look at Airbnb, I mean, if you look at Uber,
Yeah.
I mean the taxi world
Yeah.
has totally turned
Completely
upside down.
transformed it.
And I don't believe they embraced it fast enough.
Right.
And Uber and Lyft, or whatever you want to call all those services today. So it is, you have to come to a point when technology says this is, if you don't change, you're not going to keep up.
Right.
And so that's
Blockbuster's a good example of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, streaming
Exactly.
services came out, they completely denied it was happening, and they went under.
Polaroid cameras.
Yeah,
Same
exactly.
thing. It's-
Exactly. So so those are some great thoughts, and man, what some great leadership nuggets we've got today, and some things you can use for your company, no matter how small or large. But we know that leadership is effective if we do it well, and we know we do it well if we continually grow, and continual growth requires discomfort. So we had this whole podcast just to tell you you're too comfortable. You need to get a little discomfort in your life. But don't be afraid of it. I think that's what the point is. The point is, don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of being uncomfortable. Don't be afraid of risking. Don't be afraid of taking chances. And sometimes, risk doesn't look like that. Man, I'm taking this big leap. It looks like, hey, let's pull back a little bit. What I was telling you about is that illustration is we had this team dynamic that we did, and it was a mat, and it was digitally enhanced. So it had squares, and you stepped on a square, you saw the path through it. If you stepped on the wrong square, it would buzz you. So you had a whole team of people standing behind you, and the whole goal was the team at some point has to get across this mat that was a map before the other team did, and you had to do it by learning where to step and where not to step. So you had to watch and remember. So that was the whole point. And everybody kept messing up on the one where you had to step back.
Right.
There was one pattern where you had to step backwards. Well, no one wanted to step backwards because that didn't seem like progress. Right. You weren't making it go forward. You weren't getting to the result. And so it's funny how our mind works. Like, I've got to move forward. I got to move forward. And as leaders, sometimes we think that's the only direction to go, no matter what. And truthfully, sometimes if you don't stop and take a step back and give yourself a chance to look at the whole situation, you could really mess your business, your company, your personal life up if you don't do this. So let's talk a little bit about just what's the last best leadership book you've read?
Oh man, probably not the last, but it's been the most impactful. Is the Infinite Game by Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
And really, it was because of it really taught me a lot in this industry, the broadband industry. Competition is doing nothing but expanding.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Starlink satellite, which is no competition to fiber, by the way. But I mean, there's so many applications. There's so many. Even the capital of interest about 5 years ago, after COVID hit, they saw an opportunity, and that was building out fiber to these communities. So there was all these new entrants into our industry, which was fine. It made us better. But at first, I have to admit, I almost took it personal.
Yeah.
I almost took it personal. And the Infinite Game really gave me a different perspective because your competition, find a good one that's provides an awesome service and look at them as not necessarily as your competitor, but as a worthy rival.
Oh yeah,
and
like
learn
that.
from them.
Yeah,
and learn from them because it's being any kind of provider. It's not about necessarily winning or losing. It's like the game of life. It's not about winning or losing. It's about staying in the game,
right,
and creating your legacy, doing what you do best.
Right.
And so that book probably spoke to me more than any other book,
Very
at least
good.
in the last 5 years.
Very good. So what's your favorite hobby?
Favorite hobby? Well, I love to golf.
Yeah.
Wish I was better at it, but I love to
Oh,
golf.
please, he's a scratch golfer. Don't let him fool you.
Not true. Not true. Not true. But I really enjoy golf, and I enjoy probably my best thing these days is going and watching my granddaughter play softball.
Oh yeah.
She's 7 and under, kind of coach pitch team now, and it's really cool to watch her grow
Yeah.
as a person.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard. It's kind of funny to say a 7-year-old growing as a person, but they grow. I mean,
Yeah.
from a confidence level and,
Right.
and just seeing the emotions and the spirit. That's kind of fun.
Right. Yeah. So she's old enough to run to the right base now, right?
Oh my gosh, they're turning double plays out there. Dude.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy. I'm like, I don't think I did that at 7-year-old.
Yeah, a coach pitch. That's amazing.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
they're
impressive.
kids are so incredible nowadays, aren't they? They get a lot of options and opportunities. So, what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of as a leader?
As a leader, from a personal perspective, I'm most proud of the family that we have, Laura and I have, and the passion, the growth that we have seen within our family. As a leader, I'm proud of who we've become.
Yeah.
I'm proud of who Pioneer has become. I'm proud of the leadership team that really helped get us through, pave us through this this storm, the storm
Yeah.
we went through. And I'm proud of all the employees that endured, and that supported us, that provided ideas and thoughts throughout the way.
Yeah.
And the growth, and I mean, you can see our billboards out here. I mean, we're not just a broadband provider. We provide cameras, we provide outdoor Wi-Fi, we provide experiences, and that wasn't because of Blake. That was because of the Pioneer employees.
Yeah.
And the thoughts and ideas and the work that they put in and to recreate Pioneer.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm probably most proud of today.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thanks, man, for being here and giving us your time. And I hope this has been fun for you. It has been for
Absolutely.
me. And let me ask you one more question. How does your faith, I mean, I understand you're a believer in Christ, and so how does your faith play a role in your life daily? What does that look like for you?
I think it's all in God's plan where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the natural self, you said the word comfort earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think being comfortable was always important to me until about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And there was this calling that I felt from God that I needed to I needed to do more. I needed to share who I was and impact people personally, not just professionally, but even personally. I mean, there's this mantra that you can't be personal at work, and that's so wrong. It's so wrong. I think that's how you connect with people. That's how you influence people. That's how they influence you. I mean, it's not a one-way street, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's people. It's listening to folks. So it's really. So I guess I would say God's. I never could speak in public.
Yeah.
I never could speak in public, and I never was a great communicator um, outside one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so when I felt this calling about you need to grow in this area to serve His purpose, not just Pioneer's purpose, I said, God, I can't.
Yeah.
Right? I said, not me.
Yeah.
He said, yes, you can.
Yeah.
He said, trust Him. Put yourself in these situations. And it takes, to get me through, I used to have a huge fear of that. And I think that was also a personal growth that our Heavenly Father was really teaching me to grow, is to trust Him.
Yeah.
And so I think, it is about a little bit about your seasoning and your walk with God. And I think that brought me closer to Him, because I have to rely on Him more.
Yeah.
Because I can't do this without His touch, His leadership, the Spirit guiding me through those situations. And so I would say, He basically get what's the word? Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Is probably the words that fit best in that situation. And I lean on Him more than I ever have.
Right.
And so that's really what's put me in the place that I am today.
Fantastic, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And hey, everybody, thank you for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed this content and this conversation. It has been a pleasure for me to have this conversation with Blake, and I hope that it's helped you. We've talked about a lot of things that really will help you with your leadership and your organization. And so, man, have a great week. God bless you. We'll see you next time.